Okay, good morning, everybody. We'll have you take your seats. Welcome. They have a big script for me today, and I do not stay on script, so I'm going to do my very best to read all of these words for you today. But good morning. My name is Megan Jarabic, and I'm a shareholder at the law firm of Von Briesen and Roper and the co-chair of DMI's board of directors. So welcome today. We are so thrilled to see so many people in this room. The energy feels very DMI. So thank you for everybody who made it down here today, and welcome for those of you who are attending via Zoom. We are excited to be live at the Edgewater Hotel and streaming virtually. So we've got both things going on today. And for today's event, we originally had planned to have Madison Police Department Chief Sean Barnes as our monthly speaker, but due to unforeseen circumstances, he could no longer make it today. So we will be rescheduling his talk. He has a lot of amazing things to say, and I know a lot of people are really interested to hear him speak. So we are going to go ahead and reschedule that. But we are very excited and fortunate, however, to have another great speaker and friend of DMI lined up today, Ellie Westman, President and CEO of Destination Madison. So thank you, Ellie, for stepping in at the last minute. We're thrilled to have you here today. Before we hear from Ellie, though, I'd like to recognize and welcome some DMI members of the month. Joining DMI recently, we have Connect Search LLC, a boutique staffing firm focused on making meaningful connections between employers and talented professionals, represented today by Tom Fox. Dane Dances, a nonprofit volunteer organization providing free family-friendly events on the Monona Terrace rooftop every Friday evening in August, represented today by Al Cooper. Epic, a privately held healthcare software company located in Verona, represented by Katie Lee. And the RCC, a sexual violence resource center, represented by Gray Miller. Welcome to all of our new members. We can go ahead and give them a round of applause. We're thrilled to have you as part of the DMI community, and we look forward to getting you involved in our events and committees and to welcome your participation. Next, I'm happy to share that our friends at Madison Central Business Improvement District are busy getting ready for a great lineup of summer events. And we wanted to let you know of a few things that you can put on your calendars. Returning on Thursday, June 2nd from 5 to 7 in Lisa Link Peace Park is the live and local concert series, where local artists perform in a beautiful downtown public space located along State Street, happening throughout June, July, and August. So make sure to get those on your calendar. Then on Tuesday, June 7th from noon to 1, be sure to stop by the first Your Lunchtime Live concert. There we go. For 13 consecutive Tuesdays from June through August, a free outdoor concert series will be taking place from noon to 1. This year it is on the lawn near the South Hamilton Walkway. It kind of moves around the Capitol Square every year, so make sure you know where you're going, although you can follow the sound, I'm sure. So get that on your calendar as well. And then you will not want to miss the next Madison Night Market happening on Thursday, June 9th from 4 to 8 on State Street and Gilman Street. The Madison Night Market is a celebration of Madison's unique and inspiring creative culture, showcasing a variety of vendors with homemade products, local art, artisan gifts, prepackaged food, and fresh produce. The event includes live music, artist special, visiting food carts, and pop-up experiences. And it is a great way to feel the energy of downtown. So please make sure to put that on your calendar. We encourage you to attend these events, invite your family and friends. And I see Peggy looking at me, so I'm going to remind you all, post on social media about coming downtown, tag DMI, share it with your friends. Great way to bring everybody back downtown and show them how much fun you're having, and they will want to join in, no doubt. Okay. Next, I would like to remind all members about the DMI Member Meetups program. This is a program that was started pre-COVID, and it's kind of rejuvenating. Now, Member Meetups is an interest-based gatherings that can be social, civic, professional in nature. It's really a you design it format to plan your own get together. It is open to DMI members and non-member guests if you'd like to invite everybody. A couple of member meetups on the calendar. You can find these on the DMI website, but a few to note now: virtual speed networking meetup on Tuesday, June 21st from 12 to 1, and a running club, which you will not find me at, but I'm sure very motivated individuals will be there on Tuesday, June 28th from noon to 1. To register or learn more about the member meetups, please visit the DMI website. It's a great way to start putting together some groups with individuals that you just haven't seen in a while. Okay. Next, to continue with the program, I'd like to thank and recognize our sponsors of today's event. The What's Up Downtown series is made possible by the generous partnership DMI has developed with our new major series sponsor, and there's, I think, every named partner in the room today, or pretty close: Carlson, Black, O'Callahan, and Battenberg, LLC. Let's give them a round of applause. That's a big deal. We are excited to have Carlson Black as the new major sponsor for this event, and we'd like to welcome Angie Black, partner with Carlson Black and secretary of the DMI Board of Directors, to say a few words. Welcome, Angie.
Thanks, Megan. Hi, like Megan said, I'm Angie Black. I am one of the 4 founding partners of the law firm of Carlson Black, O'Callahan, and Battenberg that opened its doors right here in downtown Madison in spring of 2018. Carlson Black is focused on commercial real estate, land use, development, construction, cooperatives, business, and tax law, with over 125 years of collective experience representing clients in those areas among all of our attorneys. I am proud to say that I and my colleagues at Carlson Black have been involved in many of Madison's redevelopment projects over the last 20 years, including counseling and guiding clients through a wide variety of commercial, mixed use, residential, institutional, and industrial development and construction projects from start to finish. We bring projects from inspired ideas to built reality. My partners, Matt Carlson, Dan O'Callahan, and myself, are grateful for our involvement in DMI over the past 20 years. And it has been so inspiring and rewarding to watch DMI grow and evolve as an organization into the amazing community partner and advocacy network for downtown Madison that it is today. We look forward to continuing our participation and partnership with DMI over the next 20 years and beyond. Thank you, DMI, staff, leadership, committees, and members, for all that you do for downtown Madison and for the entire Madison community. Thanks, and I'll turn it back to Megan.
Thank you, Angie. You and your partners have been such wonderful, amazing partners to DMI and to us, and we thank you very much. We're thrilled to have your participation in this event, as it's one of our favorites. So the What's Up Downtown Breakfast Series is also made possible by our supporting series sponsors: Ho Chunk Gaming Madison, State Bank of Cross Plains, TDS Telecom, with special contributors the Edgewater Hotel, and UW Health, Unity Point Health, Meritor, and Courts. We thank these sponsors very much for their generous contributions to make today's event happen. And finally, thank you to today's rotating monthly sponsor, Monona Bank. We greatly appreciate Monona Bank for their support for today's program and are pleased to welcome Arlen Stephenson, Executive Vice President, Chief Lending Officer at Monona Bank, as well as a good friend of mine, Jordan Geiger, Vice President and Trust Officer at State Bank of Cross Plains, to briefly say a few words. Welcome, Arlen and Jordan. Come on up.
All right. Yes. Well, good morning. As Megan stated, I am Arlen Stephenson at Monona Bank, and I'm really pleased to be here this morning with you. And joining me is Jordan Geiger here from State Bank of Cross Plains. And we wanted to just take a few moments today, welcome everybody who's in attendance, both here and virtually. And Monona Bank is pleased to be a monthly sponsor, and Cross Plains is a supporting sponsor, and we're looking forward to a talk from Ellie Westman Chin here for Destination Madison today. And we wanted to take a few moments today just to share a little more news on our exciting recent merger news between Monona Bank and State Bank of Cross Plains. Our organizations have entered into what's known as a merger of equals. So everybody says, what is a merger of equals? Well, typically you have a merger or an acquisition where one company acquires the other company, absorbs into the existing organization. Well, in our merger of equals agreement, we have two community banks coming together in what we like to call or refer to as combining to make a super community bank. The goal for us is to bring the top features of each of our banks together and create the best new bank possible. So in a merger of equals agreement, there will be one surviving stock based upon an agreed upon exchange ratio between each of the banks' stock, but there's no premium being paid in that. So that hence means that neither bank is buying each other out. So in the newly merged bank, we'll have a brand new name. And sorry, today is not the reveal day, so you're going to have to wait on that. I can assure you that people are working very hard on that, but stay tuned to that. So we'll have that rolling out here probably very shortly. But also importantly, as we bring the two banks together, we have equal representation from each of our boards of directors as well as our executive team. But there's some very key important factors that need to be in place to bring and have a merger of equals work together. And that includes having similar cultures as well as shared vision. And I think this is very true in our case because a lot of our leadership teams have known each other for many years, and we've operated in the same markets and had local ownership. And so that is one of the keys to our success going forward. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jordan. He can share a little more on the whys and the benefits of our merger.
Thanks, sir. Good morning. I just want to take a quick second and thank Downtown Madison Incorporated. So full disclosure, I have not been to one of these in person since the pandemic, and just the resiliency of DMI. Speaker drops out, has other things going on, and they bring in an amazing speaker, Destination Madison, who I'm excited to hear about everything that they have in store for Madison. You guys always bring in great organizations to support Madison and everything like that. So great explanation on what's going on with merger of equals. So why a merger of equals and not continuing to operate as independent banks separately? And what it comes down to is really one thing, and that's our stakeholders. So our stakeholders are categorized into 4 separate buckets, if you will. And I'll just go through them real briefly. First is, and it's in no particular order, but our shareholders. Our shareholders provide us with capital, and it's our job to provide them with a return on their capital. And going forward as one organization, we feel that we'll continue to provide them with a decent return on capital going forward in the next 5 to 10 years. Number 2 are our employees. Our employees deserve and they need internal growth opportunities. And by merging our companies together, it opens up that opportunity for our employees for years to come. The third are the communities in which we serve. We'll have 17 locations, and within the last couple of years, we've donated about $650,000 to $700,000 for the communities, and we want to continue to exceed that. So by merging together, we'll be able to do that as well. And fourth, last but not least, our customers. Our customers deserve the best service possible. And again, by merging together and leveraging economies of scale, we'll hopefully be able to do that for years to come as well. So with that, I believe the only thing standing between you and the speaker is me. So I'm gonna skedaddle. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan and Arlen. It's wonderful to have you here and to hear about that exciting news. So you didn't think you were getting breaking news this morning, but you are. And we might be able to get the name out of him, I think. You know, we'll give you a lot more coffee and just really help you out there. We appreciate your ongoing support of DMI and your kind words. With that, it is now my pleasure to welcome and introduce our speaker for this morning's breakfast, Ellie Westman Chin. Ellie is the president and CEO of Destination Madison, where she oversees the mission to increase the impact of tourism economy on businesses, workforce, and the quality of life for Madison. She oversees a team of 30 whose efforts bring meetings, events, and leisure opportunities to the greater Madison region. Ellie was formerly president and CEO for Visit Franklin in Tennessee, where she was named the 2018 Greater Nashville Hospitality Association Woman of Hospitality and Tourism Leader of the Year. If it's by word count, you nailed it. You got a really, really amazing award there. She serves on the boards of the U.S. Travel Association, Destinations International Foundation, and our own board. So we are thrilled to have you here today. Prior to joining Visit Franklin, Ellie was Vice President, Business Development and Corporate Events Leader for the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau. She previously worked for Empire Force Events in New York City and started her career assisting with the creation of the Nashville Sports Council for the Nashville Convention and Visitors Corporation. We are pleased to have Ellie with us this morning to talk about the state of Madison's tourism industry. Following the presentations, we will be taking questions from the audience. For those here, you can raise your hand and we'll bring a mic to you. For those on Zoom, please use the question and answer function to submit a question, and we'll try to get as many of those in today as we can. So with that, please join me in welcoming Ellie Westman Chin.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to put this over here because I'm right-handed. I'm so thrilled to be here, and I was sharing earlier with some folks, this is the first presentation I've given since I've gotten to Madison because, you know, COVID, right? That's kind of the answer to everything nowadays. So I'm excited to be here, but I also want to tell you it's the first presentation I've given in over a year and a half. So sorry if you're kind of my guinea pigs to do my first Destination Madison presentation. I just wanted to start a little bit by diving in a little bit to more of my history. I have been in tourism my whole career. I did start at the Nashville Convention and Visitors Bureau, the second hire to start their division of the Nashville Sports Council. While I was there, and I grew up in Northern Illinois, so I'm a Midwestern person at heart. I actually moved around the country a lot. I didn't think I would ever be back in the Midwest, and I am so thrilled to be back home again. But when I was in Nashville, this was before Nashville is what it is today. This is when they used to roll the streets up at 6 p.m. at night. And we had an amazing mayor who said, we got to change the city or we are going to die. And so we built an arena right downtown. We didn't have a team. We didn't have events, but he's like, I know if I build an arena, it'll cause economic impact for this downtown. So then I got to serve on the committees to bring both the Tennessee Titans and the Nashville Predators to town. And that was a really cool experience. It was such a cool experience. And I was so young. I called my mom one day and I said, Mom, this is awful. And she said, what's so awful? And I said, what if this is the last cool thing I do in my whole career and I'm just getting started? And she said, stop being an idiot, enjoy yourself. You will do other great things. So, you know, moms, like they're all about it. So while I was in Nashville, we hosted the NHL entry draft, and that's how I met my husband, Ken Chin. At the time, he worked for the NHL. So when we married, I moved to Hoboken, New Jersey, and I worked downtown Manhattan for Empire Force Events, where I served on a very large committee that was trying to bring the Olympics to New York City. That was an interesting experience because in Nashville, they were so scrappy that if you hosted an event, like when we hosted the NHL Board of Governors, we were like, it'd be really cool if we like had 100 people outside the arena going, yay, we love hockey. 3,000 people showed up. You go to New York City and you're like, oh man, we need some people around for when the Olympic announcement is made because we know New York's going to win. Even though most New Yorkers didn't want the Olympics, we couldn't get anybody to show up. So we did it outside the Today Show because we figured if nothing else, the visitors would be there and they would cheer for us and it would look cool, right? From there, we moved to Atlanta Convention and I worked for the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau. That was my opportunity to get into executive leadership. There we did really big events, Final Fours, conventions that were 60,000 people because they're convention centers, 3 million square feet of space. And then it took me to Franklin, Tennessee. And that gave me an opportunity to serve as the president and CEO. But I just want to share a quick story about Franklin. If you haven't been to Franklin, I highly recommend that you go. So, because it's a cool little town. Right in the middle of town is a Confederate statue, smack dab in the middle of town. And after Charlottesville, we all got together and we're like, we could be next. That could easily happen here. Well, how are we going to stop that from happening here? Because you can't really stop it, right? This kind of sounds like a joke. 12 ministers and a historian got together and we thought, you know what we don't tell in Franklin is we don't tell the full story of Franklin. We tell one side of the story, but we're not telling the Black history story of Franklin at all. And so we went to the city manager, who's a phenomenal person, and we said, we need to put markers up around town and tell the story of the Black history experience in Franklin, because where that Confederate statue stands was a slave market. And we need to let people know that. And so we put up 5 markers around that Confederate statue telling that Black story of Franklin. And I will tell you, the day that we unveiled those markers will go down as one of my proudest moments of my career. Everybody was in tears. It was this beautiful June day, about 3,000 people showed up. It was amazing. And since then, before I left, we raised money to erect a US Color Troop statue that was just erected last June. And so I'm really proud of that town because they're not running from their ugly history, they're telling their ugly history. And I think what's important is, what is the city doing now, even if they have ugly history? Are they running from it and trying to hide from it? Are they saying, no, you know what, that happened here and it wasn't pretty, and we're going to tell you that story, but here's how we're moving forward and embracing it. So that's a little bit about my history. Here I am in Madison. I've been here about a year. Like I said, I'm thrilled to be back in the Midwest. It feels like home. It really does. It's just exciting to be back. So Destination Madison, let's talk about that a little bit. I just thought I would start with a little bit, what is now called a DMO, a Destination Management Organization. We used to be a Convention and Visitors Bureau, and now we've got a fancy new DMO title that everybody uses. And I found this description. You know, I think this is a pretty good description. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to bring people here. We want them to spend all their money and create this economic impact, and then we want them to go home. But what I think is missing from this description is the focus that we also have on the health and well-being of our community. Because without that, we don't have a visitor experience. If we don't have a healthy community, if we don't have a happy community, visitors want to go to a place where people like to live. And so I do think this description needs updated, but I just wanted to make sure you understand we've got that focus there too. Destination Madison mission is to inspire a love for Madison. And I'd say that's not only with our visitors, but with our residents as well. Of course, that's really easy to do because I've yet to meet anybody that lives here that isn't totally in love with the city, which is really awesome. And our vision is to be a place for all. Destination Madison turns 50 this year, so it's an exciting year for us. Our anniversary is in November. These are some of the highlights throughout the year, not only for Destination Madison, but also for the city, because really important things have happened in the city that help tourism continue to grow year after year, like opening Monona Terrace, like the expansion of the Edgewater Hotel, exhibition halls at the AEC. And then, of course, getting Ironman and CrossFit and some of these events that puts a lot of eyeballs on our city is really exciting too, because they're telling folks to come back and see us. So how are we funded? I get this question a lot because people don't really understand who we are as far as an organization, but we're a standalone 501c6 organization, and we're funded primarily by hotel room tax. So when a visitor checks into a hotel and they pay that room rate, they pay a tax, right? Here in Madison, it's 10%. The hotel collects that tax, and that tax is remitted to the city or the municipality, depends on how it is in that city. Once they get that money, 30%, this is state statute, 30% of that money is kept by that municipality. 70% needs to go to tourism, promotion, and development. Here in Madison, we have a room tax commission. It's comprised of 6 people, and they sit down with that other 70% and they decide how to basically divvy that money up. So we get a percentage of that 70%. Our funding is primarily 59% is the city of Madison. That's the hotel motel taxes that we get. 26% are partner dues. So we do have partners, and I know there's many of you in the room today, so thank you for your partnership with us. And that's very important to our overall mission. We are governed by a 25-member board of directors, and I report up to executive committee, which reports up to the board. You can see quite a few committees up here on our list. If you're not engaged with Destination Madison and you would like to be engaged with Destination Madison, give us a ring, because we're always looking for volunteers to come in and have conversations with us and really help develop where we're headed and what we're doing. We have a 30-member staff. It's kind of divided up into different sections. So Jamie Patrick is our vice president of convention sales, sports, and marketing. So that's the group side of our business, right? That's when, I'm sorry, not marketing, services. That's when, the convention's here because there's 500 people in town and they're all running around with their badges on, or you definitely know when CrossFit's here because really in shape people are walking around town, and I'm feeling like a slug because I'm like walking around eating potato chips, So that's Jamie's team. Kate Dale is our vice president of marketing and branding. So she oversees all of our marketing efforts, our leisure efforts. Rob Gard oversees our PR and communications. And then we have HR and operations with Kathy Parman and Brian Borkovac. And then we try to get in the news a lot because Rob and his team does a phenomenal job of getting stories placed. I always call it free advertising. I don't think Rob likes me describing it like that. But basically, when we get an article in the Washington Times, I can't pay for an ad in the Washington Times. Well, I could, but it would be our entire budget and then we'd be done for the year. So they're out there every day pitching Madison. Let's talk about Madison, write an article about Madison. And then here's some of the words. You know, we're 50 years old this year. There have been phenomenal individuals that have worked with and for Destination Madison for a long time. And so I definitely am standing on the shoulders of those folks that built this successful team to move forward. And then my good friend Mara, who is over at DMO in Texas, she did this wheel, which I kind of like because I think it's true. But she said, you know, if you build a place people want to visit, then they want to live there. And if they want to live there, they're going to work there. And if they're going to work there, they're going to open a business or they're going to be part of a business there. And I think that wheel is really important because once again, if we're not happy what we're doing here, people are going to feel it and they're not going to want to come see us. So I think the connection between residents and visitors is really important overall for the success of the city. So where are we today? Well, we're not really sure because we haven't gotten our 2021 numbers yet, but we'll get those in the next 2 weeks. But I did think I would just go back and visit where we were in 2019, what happened in 2020, and then where we are building back to. So in 2019, the direct visitor spending in Madison was $1.4 billion. In 2020, that fell 43% to $783 million. So there's the climb, right? We supported 22,600 jobs in 2019. That fell dramatically to 15,811 jobs. This is a tougher build. I will tell you right now, workforce development and hospitality is a very big struggle right now. Diving a little further into those numbers, you can see here by industry segment, kind of how each of our industries fared from 19 to 20. So if you look at lodging fell 66%. People weren't traveling. They weren't staying in hotel rooms. So again, working with all of our partners, we're like, can we get that when are we going to get that economic pack? Which I'm going to share with a little bit with that. So when I got here, we were still pretty restricted, but in Tennessee, we completely reopened in September of 2020. No mandates, done. We're not closed anymore. Come and do whatever you want to do. So I'd been through a reopening and I knew what it was like. And I knew that the minute it reopened, people started coming. It's so weird. I don't know. It's like they put the open sign on and then like, voila, here's visitors. So I said, what is our recovery plan? Because we don't really have a plan. And I know when we reopen, we don't want to at that time say, what are we going to do? We want a plan in place. So we spent quite a bit of time talking to our board, talking to our stakeholders, our partners, our staff, and said, what are you experiencing? What are you forecasting for when we reopen and what is happening? And from that, what we saw were themes come up across the board. We talked to all of our municipal partners. These 6 themes came up. We heard these over and over and over. Get sales back in action, get marketing up and running again, because like every DMO, most every DMO in the country, we quit advertising because why would we spend that money when no one was traveling? So from May 1st through April of this year, we've been working on these 6 key priorities. We wanted to get back to that visitor, get back to that focus of bringing those people in town. And I'm really happy to say that we did really well overall. So let's just talk about website page views. So what happened when COVID hit? People weren't planning vacations. They weren't dreaming about vacation. All they were concerned about, as I was how is my family? What's happening at the office? Are we going to survive this? You know, what is going on? I mean, as you guys know, in the early days of COVID, something would happen and you would deal with that. And then maybe you run to the kitchen to get a glass of water and come back and it's changed and you now have to deal with that. It was nuts. So our website page views dropped dramatically. So we're like, it'd be cool if we got back to 1.5 million page views. We got to 1.9 million, which is almost equal to 2019. On the lead side, meeting planners weren't calling us. They were not booking meetings because what was happening was everything they had, and sports planners, everything they had booked in 2020, they were trying to figure out what to do with those meetings and sports events. I'm happy to say that meeting planners were pretty loyal to their cities. And instead of saying, we're just going to cancel, too bad, they said, let's move it. So a lot of things we had booked in 20 are now happening here in 22 and 23, but that's where their minds were. We couldn't call them and be like, so anyway, that meeting that you have for 2027, what about Madison? No, they weren't thinking about that yet. So we thought, well, maybe 60% of 2019. I mean, it was really just a shot in the dark. I hate to tell you it wasn't more scientific than that, but it wasn't. But I'm glad to say the sales team really outdid themselves and they generated 245 leads, and our room night goal was 54,000 and they generated 82,000 room nights. What that means is conventions and sporting events that are coming into the future. Like we just booked an event for 2029. Like that's how far out we book because we get into rotations with planners and so forth. So this is one of the metrics we chase. It's called hotel occupancy, and basically how many rooms in Madison are booked day in and day out? You know, how many people are staying with us? So as you can see here, the light pink is 2020, the red color is 2021, and then the blue line is this year in 2022. So if you look at March of 2020, our occupancy was 33%. We grew that this year to 49%. So that's pretty good, right? But in 2019, that was 58%. So we still have a little ways to go to get back to healthy numbers. We also track average daily rate. This is that rate you pay when you check into a hotel, $189 a night, $229 a night. How much is that? So as you can tell here, now these lines always make me long for the olden days, so to speak, because you have to remember in January and February of 20, we weren't closed yet because COVID hadn't really hit our shores, so to speak. But in 2020, the ADR was, is that right? Yeah, $98.66, which is pretty low for us. This year it was $105.18. In 2019, it was $111.72. So, you know, we're getting back there. But what's really exciting this year is that our events are back and we are going to be active. So CrossFit is back this year. They bid out 23 through 27. So they tend to move every 7 years, and we're that's what our threshold is right now. Of course we bid because we're like, there is no better place for this event than here. So we did get awarded 2023. So CrossFit's back for one more year after this year. And after that, they haven't told us. So we don't know what they're doing after that, but we're excited for it to be back. Ironman will be back. Of course, this is the 20th anniversary of Ironman this year. So we are so excited about that. The half 70.2 will be on Saturday. The full will be on Sunday. We are looking for lots of volunteers. So if you'd like to volunteer, you know, you don't have to do that like 3 a.m. shift. There's shifts later in the day if you're not a really, really early morning person. And then the really great events that were at Bree Stevens or maybe didn't happen last year are back. We were just talking about Bratfest. It's back, right? And that's really fun. And Concerts on the Square will be back, you know, around the square, and Taste of Madison is going to be back around the square, and Madlet's coming back this year, and the Farmers Market, and of course, UW football games. It is really going to be a fantastic summer this year. And then this is a complete list of events that we have booked and have worked on through December of this year. So where do we go from here? Because we're not done, right? And what we know is that leisure travel is leading the charge on recovery. So that's first, which is very different than other crises times. It's usually sports, groups, then leisure. This time it's leisure. Do you know why? People haven't traveled for 2 years. They have $3.2 trillion that wasn't spent on travel the last 2 years. So, you know, we want what? I mean, we'll take $1 trillion here. So come on here, come to Madison, spend all your money. So we decided, you know what, we got to run a really aggressive leisure campaign. And last year we went through an RFP process because we needed a new agency of record. We needed an agency of record. We hadn't had one before. Through that process, we have decided to partner with Shine United. We spent last summer and last fall out shooting new images and videos and all this different stuff, and they're beautiful. And I'm going to give you a look at what that is. But we knew that campaign wasn't going to kick off till April of this year, but we didn't want to lose the fall because we have phenomenal falls. And so we thought, well, let's run a short-term recovery campaign, and then we'll run the brand campaign starting next April. So we're doing persona target marketing. And yes, we've named our personas, and yes, we do talk about them in the office like they're staff. And somebody even said today, well, relax, Randy would drink this kind of coffee. And I'm like, okay, I think we're getting a little bit into our personas, but we have our active adventurers. That's kind of your millennial age group. They're going to come in maybe with kids, maybe, you know, with friends or on their own. Kicking back vacationers is more of our boomer group that's retired or empty nesters, and they have a little bit of money to spend and maybe a little bit more time to travel. And then a new market for us is the young, socially conscious travelers. That's a really hard market to find. And they are one of the reasons that we just started a TikTok channel. So, and that is all I know about TikTok. That's all my knowledge. But last year we applied for an ARPA grant through the state. We applied for the maximum amount of $1 million. We did receive the maximum amount. That entire amount went into sales and marketing. And so what that allowed us to do is to expand our Midwest drive market. from about 350 and 350 miles to 400 miles. And that's been great because we are getting some phenomenal response from Ohio and Missouri and places that we just really haven't advertised before. But what we've learned through our advertising is people want to go places that are kind of easy because we have been stressed out and it's just been a rough 2 years. And I want to go someplace that's easy and fun and I can get around the city easily and so forth. So that's what our campaign is about. Put simply, in Madison, it's easy to have a great day. So these are some of the ads that we ran last fall and through the winter until early April of this year. But we really wanted to show them what they could do when they got to Madison. You can come in and you can kayak at 9, go to Albert Gardens at 2, have some cheese curds at 7, hit a comedy club at 10. These ads resonated really well. What was important for us is that we also wanted to show that we're a 4-season destination. So you can come here and play any time of year, which has been really fun. So what did we discover? We drove 68,000 web sessions, 61,000 of those were new users, which was really great because now we've captured them on our website and we can keep feeding them content. We saw some increased spending in the Midwest, especially in Chicago, out of Chicago, Milwaukee, and Minneapolis. And we learned a lot about our key personas. Our Randy, that's our boomer group. They are all over Facebook and they love to engage, which is why Progressive PJ is not on Facebook, right? Because the minute the old people get on Facebook or whatever it is, they go to a new platform. PJ does not respond at all to a traditional ad. Do not serve it up to them. They are not going to respond to that. And Logan and Alex revisit the website more often. So we launched our brand campaign and we thought, what do we really want to do? Well, you know what we want to do is we want to inspire people to visit us. We want them to come town and see us. And we thought, what's that North Star? Like, what are we going to tell them? Why are they coming here? Why do we want them to come here? And we want them to come here for connection. And this is our definition of connection. Connection is everything, and yet it's elusive. Connection to ourselves, to our loved ones, and to our world. It simultaneously grounds us and makes us feel free. In Madison, it's how we thrive. We create and foster spaces and experiences for all people to connect just as you are. Come here to experience the things that bring your family and friends together, the things that make you feel like yourself. Come here to be welcomed by people who can't wait to connect with you, because that is unmistakably Madison. So based on this is the campaign that we just launched. And what we wanted to do here is we wanted to illustrate how much you can do in a single day in Madison and highlight those unique to Madison attractions and activities using this timeline concept. So if you see up in the left-hand corner, it's kind of if you go to visitmadison.com, our video is running, our new video is running on there, and you can see this timeline actually go through with the video. So it's like biking at 6 a.m., so on and so forth. So this is one of the ads we're running here. The second one is a biking ad, but the important thing here is we wanted to deliver the right content to the right person in the right place. So if you're coming here with family, we don't want to deliver you a whole bunch of nightlife activity because that's not what you're going to do. We want to deliver to you family activity. So here's some personas in creative in action. A relaxed Randy. What did we learn? 73 million baby boomers spend $157 billion per year on travel. We just want a piece of that pie, right? 66% are influenced by travel ads and 84% are using the internet to book their trips. What I love about this picture, we call this Randy in the Wild because these are actual visitors to our destination. So they took pictures while they were in town, they tagged us, we pulled their pictures, and this is them having a good time. Many of them want to come and see see family and friends. A lot of them are looking for relaxation and rejuvenation. They rely really heavily on rankings. And if Rob Gardwood was in the room, he would tell you that every time something, like when I read Travel and Leisure, and if they're like, best urban lakes in the country, and I'm like, where's Madison? Then Rob gets an email, hey Rob, we should be on this list, because people love lists and they follow the list. We need to be on more of those. But here's some of the ads that we are serving up, so to speak, to our Randy persona. We did run an ad in Midwest Living, but most of this campaign is digital. And then Active Alex and Lively Logan, these are our active adventurers. They travel about 35 days a year and like to spend all of their free time traveling. 97% share their experience on Instagram or on social media 2 to 3 times per day on average. That's why we want them here, because their friends are going to see it, because 79% are influenced by their friends. So if they've come here and they tag, their friends go, oh, that looks cool, like a cool place, I want to go there. The beautiful thing about this category or persona is you'll see here, this young woman, she came in with her spouse. We saw her back here with her friends. She came as a parent, then she came alone. I personally think she came alone after all those other trips, and she's like, man, I need some downtime. So she came back by herself. So almost all of them, or 50% of them travel with kids. These again are actual visitors that have been in our community. And they don't want their kids to be bored, which any parent in the room will probably agree with that, but they like educational adventure and some of the ads that we're serving. So as you can see, we're taking the same ad that we're using for, like, here's the kayaking ad. It's all about family adventure. You're going to see that same ad later, but with different copy, you know, so it's the same backdrop, but it's just a different experience depending on how you're coming to town. So, and then Lively Logan, they'll travel with a spouse, friend, or alone. And they prefer spending their money on travel instead of physical possessions, which I think is awesome. And then here's some of the ads that we're serving up to them. And then the last is Progressive PJ, really the hardest persona to find, but we keep digging around, look and find them. 90% of them, social media factors into their travel decisions. This is why we have to be all over social. But here's the one, and I know the staff is tired of me saying this because it just shocks me every time I read it. On average, they watch 323 minutes of video a week. 323 minutes of video a week. That's why we have to be on TikTok, and that's why we have to do videos, because this is our next generation of travelers. So this is some of their pictures, why they've been in town visiting us, but they travel as a spouse, friend, or alone. They identify as LGBTQ. They're very environmentally friendly. But these ads are resonating really well. But here's that ad. So here's our kayakers again, but now it's experience the skyline from the cockpit of a kayak, as opposed to destination, or Madison's a great place for family adventure. And then here's some of the platforms that we're running our campaign on. So we've gone wide on this, thanks to that $1 million ARPA grant. And we keep, the beautiful thing about running a digital campaign is you can track it every week. If it's not resonating, if it's not working, you change it. And so that's one reason you lean towards digital as opposed to print. So that's our leisure side. On our sales side and our group side, we're going to launch their new B2B campaign in June. So that's like in 5 days. But really what we need to do is we're going to take the foundation of our leisure campaign and we're going to use it over on the group side, because now we want the meeting planners and the sports planners and their attendees to see why it's so much fun to be here. I spoke to a group that was here at the concourse earlier this week. It was United Ways from about 13 different states. And, you know, I just sat up there and showed them a bunch of pretty pictures of things to do in Madison. It was like, look at all this great stuff. So many people are like, I'm coming back. That's what we want our groups to do. We want them to come back as leisure travelers. So what's next? We just hired On Strategy to be our new partner, but we need to write a new 3-year strategic plan. So we're getting ready to kick off that process next month. We recently implemented a free partner level because we realized that we really weren't being that equitable to all of our businesses in hospitality if they had to pay to play with us. And so we implemented this free level, so anybody that wants to engage can. We're going to continue to expand this leisure campaign. Our hopes is that as our direct flights continue to come back, we start advertising in those direct flight cities to get people on those planes to come see us. And then we are working with Step Up Equity Matters, and our staff right now is going through a year-long training on DEAI and how we can be inclusive at every level in every department across all of our programs to make sure that we're being equitable across everything that we're doing. And then we're hoping to create a program that we're going to take out to our partners. And then we want to continue to support development in Madison. And I see James sitting back there, and James and I talk a lot about the lakes, which would make sense for James to talk about the lakes. But anyway, we want to support the Lake Monona Waterfront Project and then John Nolan Drive Project. And we want to continue to be part of that conversation and see how we can help move those projects along. So before I close, I have a favor. I'm sure most of you are members of your industry associations, or maybe your companies host meetings. And all I ask is to just host those here in Madison. Or if you're at your industry association, like you're flying over to San Francisco because that's where your association meeting is, just talk to that executive director of that association, say, hey, have you ever thought about meeting in Madison? And if you get a yes, when you get a yes, hopefully, we will step in and help you to completely plan that meeting and bring it here. So that's my only request. And I just wanted to say, you know, really thank you, because moving into a new city in the tourism industry during the middle of a global pandemic, you know, I might have had better ideas in my life than that. And but if I was going to do it, I couldn't tell you, Madison's the best place to do it, because people here have been welcoming. They have made introductions for me. They've educated me on the city. And I just want to say thank you for welcoming me and my husband and making this such a great place to land for us during what is a very uncertain time.
Stay up. We're going to ask some questions. Thank you. I learned so much from that presentation, but here's two for you. Number one, to get that elusive traveler, you have to dance in your social media posts when you come to the night market. Okay. So just to bring it all together for you, make sure you add some movement so that we can get their eyeballs on that. And apparently it's not appropriate to bring your family to the nightlife activities, which I will take home with me today. Okay, all right, thanks. It's Wisconsin, right? Okay, so thank you for that presentation and to your team. We are absolutely thrilled to have you here. You did come in a very difficult time, and we're thrilled that we at least had a part in making it a welcoming place for you. So we're gonna open it up for questions. Again, for those in the room, you can just go ahead and raise your hand and Jason will bring you a microphone, and anybody online can go ahead and use the question and answer chat feature in the Zoom. So.
Hi, Ellie. It's Scott Forrester. How are you?
Hey, Scott.
Question, at the end, you talked about direct flights.
Yes.
And I have some experience. I don't know if you can answer this, but last week I went to and from New York through Newark. My direct flight canceled to Newark and had to go through O'Hare. It was a big pain. Coming back, my flight was canceled. Had to do the same, and it was a big nightmare. As I look at the history of that flight back, 4 out of 7 nights it had been canceled.
Wow.
So I don't know what's going on. It certainly wasn't weather. Is United just canceling flights because they're not filled? Is there anything we can do? I know you can't do anything necessarily, but you care about this.
I do. I care about it a lot, to the point where I'm like, do airlines just not want us to fly? Because it feels like that sometimes, especially with the rising prices right now. You know, I've heard this a lot, and I'm not really sure what we can do, because I think airlines are pivoting every day based on how full that flight is, or, you know, within the week, if they're seeing what those flights are. So I think we should continue to have conversations with the airport about this, because they are talking to the airlines consistently, but it's just not a good travel experience. And in all honesty, and as great as Madison is, it's not real easy to get here. And I know this because I fly a lot. So we do need to make sure that when they do get on a flight, it can get here. We've got Rob, our PR director, was in Spokane. We're hosting the Public Relations Society Association annual meeting next year, and his flight got canceled. And he was on a flight yesterday that was like, I want to say 2 or 3 stopovers, but that's not the experience we want people. So when they land here, they're not even happy anymore, right? First, they're happy to come here. Now they're like, oh man, that was a miserable experience. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. We are going to continue to have conversations about it, but if I could fix it, I would.
I sent it out to the information email on the airline, on the airport website, and I never heard back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for your partnership with the Clean Lakes Alliance. This is not a lakes question or anything with that. So what is going on with our small, unique restaurants throughout Greater Madison that make us so special? You know, fish fry at the Oak Crest, or a Plaza Burger, or some of those dive bars or small little restaurants. Because what I've heard, it's $19 an hour to basically wash dishes and things like that. What's going on with the restaurant business and those small things that make Madison so special?
Yeah, and you know, James, you're correct. I talk about this in the office, especially after living in, you know, multiple other cities, but we have a lot of independent restaurants and retailers, and that makes us very unique, because you don't see that in a lot of cities. They've been taken over by chains. We have a workforce challenge, and maybe it's more than a challenge, because what happened during COVID was that a lot of our restaurants, hotels, and retailers laid off people because they had to. Those people have done a couple of different things. One, they've found jobs other places, or they found somewhere working that pays more. And so our restaurants and retail and so forth had to increase their prices to try to be competitive in the marketplace. But sometimes that's not very viable for their business, especially like our small independents that maybe have 20 seats in the restaurant, right? So a couple of things. One is they've all been taking a look at that pay scale that they're paying. 2, we just don't have enough employees. We still have restaurants that aren't open for, if they used to be open for 3 meals a day, they're only open for 2 or maybe just 1. We have hotels that still have rooms in their floors in their hotels. Still, they don't open them. I had lunch the other day at a restaurant that had a group in, and they said, you can order this because we don't have enough people to serve that group and you at the same time. So we've got a huge workforce issue, and thanks to great partners like MadRep and DMI and Latino Academy of Workforce Development and the chambers, we're working really hard on it. But as a friend of mine that runs the Boston CVB said, she's like, we got to get sexy back in hospitality because we have gotten so much negative press about the industry and low wages and all of this, that people aren't looking at us as a viable place for a career or even as just a job. We also challenge that a lot of college kids aren't working nowadays, right? College is, it's a different stress level than whenever I went to college, and we're trying to get them into the workplace. Although we are seeing some light with part-time workers and some retirees deciding, oh, I retired, but I kind of still want to do something. And so we're getting some part-time workers back from the retiree pool. So does that answer your question? There's a lot of moving pieces in that. Yeah.
We have one last question from Zoom. How important is the redevelopment upgrade of the Alliant Energy Center to the future of attracting business clients and business groups and overall groups to Madison?
Did that come from my staff?
It did not, actually. No, it didn't. It came from a very strong DMI member who, yes, nope, not your staff.
Just curious. AEC is really important. It's, we have two huge venues here. We work with a lot. We work with all the municipalities. We work with all the different venues, pickleball and soccer and all of that. But when you look at our venues, we have Monona Terrace and we have AEC. And the AEC campus is so special because there's not a lot of campuses like that in the country that can host the things that we can host here, like especially the ag events and things like that. So I'm excited for that new executive director to come on board because there is work that needs to be done out there because it's a great campus and we want to continue to utilize it. We kind of want to continue to bring events to AEC. So those conversations are ongoing, but hopefully they're going to get their new ED on board here soon, and then we can really dive further into those conversations.
Perfect.
Take that.
Thank you. Thank you so much again, Ellie, for taking the time to join us for a first presentation. I mean, pretty great. So thank you very much for spending the time with us today. As always, if there's anything that we can do in this room or as DMI, please let us know because we are happy to help. With that, we'd like to close today's program by thanking all of our sponsors once again: Carlson, Black, O'Callahan, and Battenberg, Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison, State Bank of Cross Plains, got to switch my sheet here, TDS Telecom, Monona Bank, the Edgewater Hotel, and UW Health, Unity Point Meritor, and Quartz. We appreciate everybody joining us this morning. Thanks for coming in person. Thanks for tuning in online, and we will see you next month.